joining in. We did go live last week or Sunday or this Sunday. We went live, but we had some technical issues. Of course, we did. And so Marcus Wright from Wright Mentality has graced us again to do it again because we want to do it right. We want you guys to hear this message, hear the conversation, be part of the conversation if you like. And so you should have received the free Zoom login on LinkedIn, on Facebook. We're also going live right now on YouTube. So there's no excuse. You should be able to be part of this conversation. And if you are joining the Zoom um, uh, conference, you can sign in and ask your questions of me and Marcus, or Marcus and I, and we will be more than happy to answer them. So again, I want to welcome Marcus. Thank you, Marcus, for being here.
Thank you for
And
having me.
I want you to give us like a hot, you know, your 30-second pitch. Tell us about you. Tell us about right mentality before we get started, because I want them to know just how phenomenal you are, because I know you're phenomenal.
Thank you, Dawn.
I've known you for years. So I want everybody else to know how phenomenal you are. And so go ahead. I'm going to give you your moment to shine.
Thank you. Well, I'm Marcus Wright, Marcus A. Wright, actually, and I am President and CEO of Marcus A. Wright LLC. The right mentality is something I created because it's a mindset of you being able to look at you and activating your self-awareness, a mindset of how do I give forward in life because I have to recognize who I am first. So I've been a coach for about 5 years. Professionally, I've been doing it for literally 15 years. I've been a project manager for about 25 years. And Dawn and I have met as a project managers. So we know each other from the IT project management side and the coaching side. And I've been watching Dawn for the years that she's been coaching. And I watched her when she first started out doing her recordings in her car and watching her grow. And I'm so honored to be a part of her show. But that's Marcus A. Wright in a nutshell.
And we got this is going to be a great topic. And we really got into it on Sunday, and we went a little bit over. It was just because it was deep. And I want to bring this from two perspectives,
Mhm.
both for us as coaches, because as you know, there is this big push about EQ.
Yes,
I think this is an important piece of coaching.
yes,
We're bringing in the concept of race, especially in the workplace, and that dynamic of how do you tap into your EQ
hmm,
when the consequences of negative experiences may have an underpinning
yes,
of ethnicity or culture or race.
hmm,
And I think this is an important topic. And so I want to take it from two perspectives: the individual who's going through it, like me
hmm,
as an individual in the workplace. How do I deal with this if I'm African American or Black or Latina or Asian? And I really do feel an underlying current of my situation is because of who I am,
hmm,
as a ethnic person, or even if you are of another religion,
hmm,
or if I'm Muslim and I'm wearing my garb, am I being judged negatively? Am I not
hmm,
getting invited to meetings, or am I not getting promotion because I'm practicing my religion? How do I use my EQ in
hmm.
the workplace to
Yes,
rise above that or work with it,
yes,
right? So
yes,
I wanted to use it from two perspectives, because as coaches, we need to be able to coach people around this, but as
hmm.
individuals, we need to understand ourselves.
Right. And that is very important.
So
Understanding himself is actually the most important thing. That's why I coach activating your self awareness because it's about you. You have to
exactly.
understand who you are. Now, to jump in real quick, emotional intelligence actually means the ability to control, express, and handle your emotions and being able to communicate them effectively while understanding someone else's emotions at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So emotional intelligence is really being aware of all the situations and who you are as a person and what you're actually doing. Um, that's really what it means. And taking it from two aspects, right? As an employee, I look at myself and I'm like, I am, and you can see what I am. I'm an African American. I'm Black. I've been in the country basically my entire
Yeah,
49
hello.
years of life, but
Mm-hmm.
I've been working in corporate America for about 26 or 27 years. Um, when I go to work, I don't look at my skin color or anyone else's. You're there to perform your job because that's
That's
what
right.
your mind is telling you. I'm here to perform my job. My job as a project manager is to lead projects and manage budgets and manage teams and things like that. And Dawn is very familiar with that because at one point she was a PM. However, unfortunately, people look at me and say whatever they say about me being a person of color, a Black man. If I get emotional, because most people that are of color, that are Black, Hispanic,
We're
um,
passionate.
they're very passionate
We're
about what they're
passionate.
doing. It's
Right.
and as you can see, I'm talking on my hands, but that passion comes across as I'm just a passionate person. I'm just being assertive. I'm being myself. But sometimes, unfortunately, it can be misunderstood as being aggressive
Aggressive.
and angry. And
Yes.
you're just upset because things are going on, but that's not the case. And us as a culture, me as a person, I'm just going to take me personally,
Right.
I have to actually be aware that I can't be too passionate because if I'm too passionate, I can be misunderstood. And
Right.
when that misunderstanding occurs, it causes unnecessary conflict in the workplace. And maybe someone goes to human resources and says, well, he was just very aggressive when he was talking to me. And he was very aggressive when he stated, I should do this in the project instead of that. But if you are using your emotional intelligence, it's, hey, Marcus, can I have a conversation with you? I really want to tell you how I felt when we were talking.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like you were being a little aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting loud and you're getting
Mm-hmm.
emotional and you're all like,
Mm-hmm.
but guess what? I just want to understand why you're like that. That would be the right response from an emotional intelligence perspective to come have a conversation with me.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up. And because I have a story for that. So that's a
Yes.
perfect tie-in because and this is definitely going to be a great area for us to help our listeners and our viewers.
Mm-hmm.
So I was contracting at a major company, huge
Mm-hmm.
company, right? And I was in L&D training, coaching, development, da da da. And we were in a meeting. I was the only African American woman.
Mm-hmm.
Predominantly, everyone were Caucasian males, right?
Okay.
And so everybody's asking questions. Everybody. Male counterparts also like, well, I don't understand this. Well, what about this? And what about that? So everybody's doing it. And I kind of looked at something. I'm like, well, you know what? I don't understand this piece. Can you explain this to me more? Because I'm inferring it to be this, and I think
Mm-hmm.
it might be that, and we want to deliver it this way. So everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't even think anything of it. So just like you said, technically the lead of the meeting was like, hey, Dawn, can I talk to you after the meeting? Of
Mm-hmm.
course.
All right.
Of course, sure, let's talk. I'm thinking he just wanted to get some more feedback about my way of thinking about the project.
Mm-hmm.
He just came off, you know, I don't understand why you were being so aggressive. What did he put? His exact words were, I shouldn't have to tolerate being belittled in my meeting. And
Wow.
I was like, so the first thing I'm like was, I apologize if that's how it came off. I said,
Wow.
tell me, what did I do? So I even wanted to understand,
Mm-hmm.
what did I do? How did it come off? And he never explained it. He
Mm-hmm.
did. You were just aggressive. But what did I do? You were aggressive. You came at me. How? And he never answered. And I said, well, were we all asking questions? I said, what made my question different than everyone else's? It
Mm.
was just how you did it. Well, can you give me an example and show me? And so even through the conversation, and I think his attempt was to use emotional intelligence, it still missed the mark. And so I was taken aback, and I did say, well, you know what? If I came off incorrectly to you, I really do apologize that you took it that way. I said, you, and I was like, so what can I do differently? Or how can I help you with this? It just blew up further. Like he just started
Mhm.
getting really mad and angry and just, and I'm like, you know what? I said, because I feel that this is really bothering you, maybe we should table it. So now I'm trying to tap into my EQ.
Right, right,
And don't get me wrong, I don't want anybody to think that I wasn't angry. I was
right,
pissed.
right.
But but I was like, okay, because
That
I
is.
knew I was, and I'm just being transparent. But I said, I'm not, I know I couldn't take the conversation further. And if I wanted to hold on to my EQ, I said, let's table it. Long story short, because I want you to jump in. Long story short, he didn't want to. His thing was, no, you're going to deal with this now. We're going to talk
Mhm,
about this right now. I
mhm,
said, okay, no, we're not. I
mhm,
picked up my stuff and I walked out. And literally, like, this is me walking to the door of the conference. This is him
mhm,
behind me,
mhm,
yelling at me,
mhm,
right? Go out the
mhm.
door. I put my stuff on my desk. I go to HR and I explained to HR what happened. It was a huge thing. It was a huge thing. And even in when HR got involved, his whole thing is, I think this is a waste of time. This is a waste of my time to be part of. And even the HR manager was like, no, it's not. This is very important. And even your attitude right now is demonstrating
Right.
basically what Dawn has reported.
Mhm.
So even when you try to use your EQ, I just kind of want people to understand, if people got a perception of you, they may not be ready to tap into theirs. And you still got to be willing to uphold your emotional composure.
That is true.
So
That
I'm
is
going to
true.
let you take it away because I said a lot. I want you to take it away
So there's a lot
and
to
dig
unpack.
into it. I
There's
figured
a
it would be.
there's a lot to unpack with what happened. So
Mhm.
let me start from here. So let me explain. Emotional intelligence has five components, right? Your self-regard,
Mhm.
your self-actualization,
Right?
your interpersonal skills, your decision making, and your stress tolerance. And within each one of those five components, there are three subcategories under each one, right? So there's like 15 different
Right.
emotions from emotional intelligence that we can recognize from this. So from your situation, first of all, he did not do well from an interpersonal perspective. He was not respectful for what you were trying to convey because you were just passionate about what you were speaking on. And his decision making at just based on the story was not very good, right? The reality of him feeling that you were being aggressive and unnecessary, in his opinion, based on the story, unnecessary, assertive. Maybe you were stressed out and you were expressing these tendencies of being angry. But his decision making could have been, maybe Dawn is very passionate about what she's speaking on right now. Let me have a conversation with her when this is over, what she tried to do, but let
What you
me
trying to do?
listen.
Right.
Listen. I need to be empathetic to understand where Dawn is coming from, right? I need to listen so that I can hear, okay, maybe there's a misunderstanding. You were just being passionate. Your assertiveness was about what you were working on with the project, why you felt things need to occur that way, why you felt things needed
Mm-hmm.
to be lined up so that we
Mm-hmm.
can protect ourselves and do the
Mm-hmm.
deliveries that needed to
Mm-hmm.
occur.
Mm-hmm.
But his thought process and his reality, based on what I'm hearing, was, you're angry, you're
Right.
frustrated, you're
Right.
not listening, you don't
Right.
care about what I'm trying to say. Oh, and by
Right.
the way, you're a woman. I hate to do that as a man that has three daughters.
No,
I
but it's the
understand it.
truth.
The girls, my daughters can get very emotional when they're talking about how they feel. And sometimes if I don't understand that I need to listen and be empathetic, I, as a dad,
Mm-hmm.
can have the wrong concept of what and wrong thought process of what they are saying.
Right.
And this is what occurred to you, being a woman, being in charge of a project, being in
Right.
charge of a probably a huge budget and a
Huge.
team that
Yeah.
had a deadline that you could not meet. You were just expressing what needed to happen, how we
Exactly.
needed to move forward. Here's a documentation of what's going on. And I
Right.
know this because being a PM, that's what we have to do.
Right.
And here's the next steps. but he took it as probably an attack on him, or maybe his team didn't do something, or he felt that you were just being just too tough.
Right.
But those things that I said, his decision making was not good, his interpersonal skills were not good, the reality of what he was listening to was not good. Um, and he probably was stressed out because maybe he was feeling pressure by what you were
Possibility.
saying,
Possibility.
because what needed to be delivered. So he
Right.
had all of those emotions from him. Rather than being empathetic and trying to understand you, he projected his feeling and his empathy onto you. You need to be empathetic to me, not me to you. So that's a projection of my empathy onto Dawn instead of me. Hey, you know what? What did you mean by what you said? Why are you so passionate about what's happening? What do you think we need to do? How do you think we need to move forward?
Exactly.
What am I missing,
What
or
am I
what did
missing?
my
Right.
team do?
Right.
Right? But his approach was, it's your fault. You're angry. You're not listening. You're not being empathetic. You're the wrong person for the project. I don't want you on the project. Unfortunately, there's a couple things that happen. You're a woman. I hate to say that. And some men have a hard time. Unfortunately, some do have a hard time with women being in charge. And being a black woman, black women are very passionate about what they're working on, because the reality is you have to work 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12 times harder
Than
than a man would
everybody
have to
else.
work. So
Mhm.
you're actually trying to get things done. So you're automatically put in this category of angry black woman instead of passionate black woman. She's trying to get the job done. Let me figure out what her mindset really is. Maybe it's my mindset that's wrong.
Right.
Maybe I need to become more aware of what's happening versus how she's feeling at the moment. I need to ask her. And when we do that from an emotional perspective, while we're showing empathy and understanding and making better decisions, conversation gets better. We get to the root of the problem and we're able to move forward. But in order to do that, you, me, the person that you're speaking with,
Right.
have to have some type of self awareness of
Exactly.
my emotions
Exactly.
at that moment. So that's kind of, I think, what happened to you, unpacking all of that. And I had a similar situation. I had a situation where there was a disagreement between myself and a woman, a
Mhm.
Caucasian woman. And I don't get into the whole, male woman thing. I mean, I'm
Right.
outnumbered at home. I got 3 daughters and a wife. I mean, how many times do you guys really think I win? I don't. I get up every day and make sure my wife have coffee just so the day can start off the right way.
You sound
Seriously,
like my husband. He does the same
you
thing.
got to make the day start right. And then, I got a 15-year-old that is, they don't like this whole working, what is this school from home.
Right, right, right.
So, daddy gets up and makes sure breakfast is ready too. You got to get them started right so they can get
That's
a
right.
frame of mind so I don't have to
Right.
get beat down. But
I love it.
I was in a meeting and there was a disagreement and I didn't agree with what was happening and I explained my
Right.
position. Now, I am looking forward as I am right at this very moment talking to you guys. I am looking at the camera, I am looking at you. And as God is my witness, this person got this close to my face. This my hand is her face.
Wow.
And
She really was invading your space.
she invaded my personal
Mm.
space, which is very difficult for people of color. We don't like
It
people in our
is.
personal
It
space,
is.
right? It's difficult for people, but
People in
people of
general.
color
Yep.
really have an issue
Yeah.
with being in
Yeah.
their personal space.
Yeah.
But not only did that person get so close to my face, that person made statements that they felt that they needed to make. And I did not react.
Mm.
I had to activate my self awareness not to show impulse of turning toward her and making my statement, not to be reactive and moving quickly to appear that I'm being aggressive, not to state anything, even though at that moment I was extremely stressed, frustrated, angry, and ready to say something. But I had to not react because if I had have reacted, it would have been misunderstood, and the human resource person that was in front of me would have basically said, "You're being aggressive." And that unfortunately is
Yep.
what occurs because we're not self-aware. We're not aware of our emotions. We're not aware of the person's emotions that's sitting across from us. And a very important thing for a person that is in human resources to understand, and from a person that's in charge of that situation, they have to be able to be objective, calm, and exercise their emotional intelligence and their self-awareness to be able to diffuse the situation. Because in all honesty, it was very uncomfortable for me as the employee to have anyone, black, white, green, purple, in your face, in your space like this, and think that's okay, because
Right.
it's not. We have to respect each other so that we can have intelligent conversations. I mean, we're faced right now, Dawn, with some serious issues that are happening in
We
America today.
really are. We really
You
are.
know, we just had this young man in Wisconsin who was um, he's
Shot.
paralyzed,
Yeah,
and he was shot
paralyzed.
7 times in the back by police officers. Now, I know a lot of people have different opinions. Well, he should have complied. He should have laid down. They said he was going to get a knife, or he had a gun, or et cetera, et cetera. However, policemen and women have to be better trained and better equipped to be able to handle emotional situations
Mm-hmm.
instead of reacting with gunfire. Because if you can have a conversation with someone, and maybe you can't, maybe at that moment, because I know a lot of people are watching, maybe at that moment people feel that he should just comply. I do not disagree with you. I don't understand why he kept walking when guns
Right.
were drawn on him, but I wasn't in his mind, so I
Right.
don't know.
Right.
But I believe that those officers had the opportunity to tackle him, lay on top of him, while
Haze him.
someone else.
Right.
Well, they said
Right.
they
Right.
according we can only go by the reports. According to the reports, they tased him twice and it didn't work. That's what
Mm.
they say. I
Okay.
can't confirm or
We
deny.
don't know. We can't confirm or deny. Okay, I got
But I feel as an emotional intelligence coach that you have an opportunity to take that person down with the amount of police officers that were
you.
there,
Right. Right.
tackle him to the ground, and then maybe apprehend him. Or if you felt that you had to shoot him, why not shoot him in the leg?
Right.
Buttocks. I mean, if you get shot, and I know this,
Oh.
I've been stabbed multiple times growing up, not being a very productive person. You know, when you're young, you don't make good decisions. But
Okay.
um, being shot is painful. Now, someone
Right.
says, well, you've never been shot. No, I haven't, but my brother was, and my brother's no longer here. But
Mm.
before he passed, he told me the pain he was in when he was shot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that stopped someone. Okay.
Right.
And I did talk to some other police officers that I know that I'm close with, that are friends of mine, that felt, and I want to be very clear. Um, these friends of mine are both black and white,
Yeah. White. Okay.
okay, and one Hispanic. And
Okay.
this is true. They're different ethnic backgrounds. All 5 of my friends that I spoke with felt that there should have been a different way to diffuse the
The
situation
situation.
instead of shooting someone in the back 7 times. Now, with that said, what's happening is our emotions as a culture, right? And the people that feel that Black Lives Matter, the movement, has a purpose. We're
Mm-hmm.
very frustrated. We're very angry. We're
Mm-hmm.
very like, we need to solve this problem and we're going to do
Mm-hmm.
whatever we need to do to solve it.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel that we need to figure out how to solve this problem with conversation. As an emotional intelligence coach, I want to talk. I don't want to be reactive. I'm a human being and I will never say that I don't get angry. I will never say
We
I
all
don't
do.
feel
It's human
frustrated.
nature.
But
Right. But because of our profession gives us a certain EQ development. Think about
correct.
it as coaches. And our first thing is always is to have a conversation.
Yes.
And we seek to understand. And
Yes.
I think to bring this kind of back to the idea of coaching around EQ, and particularly in the workplace. But again, and I'm glad you brought that up because it can go beyond the workplace. I don't
Yes.
know if it really can. We really should. But the whole idea is, as coaches, one of the things that we're tasked with doing
Hmm.
is helping other people learn how to bring that self-awareness up,
Yes.
how to develop that EQ,
Correct.
and how to lead with conversation,
That is
to
correct.
lead with understanding the other person, housed in what you said, empathy.
Yes.
And
Empathy is
let's talk
very
about the
important.
word empathy. Yes, I want to talk about that. Let's define empathy. So, from the psychological perspective, because as you know, my background is in psychology.
Yes, I do.
And so, from the psychological perspective, when we say empathy, we are talking about, and I'm going to say it in layman's terms,
Hmm.
I don't necessarily have to have your experience,
Hmm.
right? But I can still feel for you because
Yes.
you're a human being. I
Yes.
can feel for you because you're having a painful experience.
Yes.
I've had my white coach colleagues, want to understand more. How do I work with diverse populations?
Hmm.
I've never dealt with discrimination. I don't have to tell my sons or my daughters how to behave or respond to the cops.
Correct.
And I'm like, but you're a mom, right? And they're
Right.
like, yeah. I'm like, so you love your kids? Yeah, I love my kids. So even though you don't have to have that conversation, think about what that would mean if you did. And
Hmm.
they go, oh. And I'm like, it's not that you have to have it. So when we talk about empathy, you don't need the experience. That's sympathy. When you have
Oh, yes.
sympathy, you had
Ah,
the experience.
very good.
Empathy, you didn't have it. But because you are human and we all experience suffering, we all experience
Mhm.
joy, you can connect that I'm having something come up for me. So
Yes.
I'm going to let you take it from there.
So when I think of empathy, and you explained it very well, I think that as a coach, when we have to talk to or coach different people, you become empathetic as a coach because you can't coach without being able to listen and be empathetic to what
Yep.
someone is saying,
Yep.
right? We all, as human beings, in all honesty, you can look this up, and I know Dawn knows it better than I do. Our first thought, unfortunately, as human beings, because we're all emotional, is very negative. We have to fight the negative so that the positive can take control.
You said it.
That is a normal part of us being human
Development. Yep.
beings.
Yep.
It's a true negotiation in our mind.
Yep.
Our mind and our mindset, unfortunately, all of us, is immediately the negative.
And
But we
me.
have to
Me.
fight.
How does me? Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
we have
Yep.
to fight that side
Yes.
to be able to coach someone. I'm listening to you. I hear what you're saying. Is that what you mean by what you said? Let's have a conversation about that. I know people are like, what in the world is this man talking about? But think about it for just a moment. When you talk to your mom or your dad, wife, husband, your spouse, your
Right.
children, whatever, at that moment that you're speaking to family,
Right.
you are empathetic.
Right.
You're listening. We have to take that same thought process, that same emotion, and be empathetic to the people that we're coaching, to our friends that we're speaking to our
Right.
coworkers that we deal with every day.
Every day. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
it's difficult. I know systemic racism exists.
It exists.
Unfortunately, it does.
It does.
But
Even if you don't see it, and even if you
it,
didn't experience it,
it
it
does.
doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Right.
Right.
Exactly.
But we have to, as people.
Right.
When I say people, I mean people. I don't care if you're black, you're white, you're Hispanic, you're green, you're purple, you're orange, you're Russian, you're
Doesn't matter.
Muslim. I don't care what you are.
Yep.
We're people.
We're
So
people's
we
person.
have to learn as people to listen when people are having a conversation with us, especially a coach that is trying to help someone navigate through whatever they're going through
Exactly.
within the work environment. It was a very difficult situation for Dawn to
Oh
have
yeah, it
that
was.
occur when
It
she
was.
was just trying to explain that I'm just passionate. I don't want to miss this deadline. I'm concerned about the project. And for that person to take it the wrong way, they were either, maybe they were, I'm going to give them benefit of the doubt. Maybe they were frustrated that day. Maybe they were angry about something.
Happens.
Maybe his
Happens.
wife or his kid, something
Right.
happened, right?
Happens.
Death, anything could have happened.
Anything could have happened.
But we still have to recognize that how I project who I am onto someone else is how they are going to perceive me moving forward. That's how they're going to see me until
Right.
I come and say, you know what, Dawn, you know, that day that we had that conversation, I was really probably not in a good place, but can
Right.
you really explain to me what happened? And as a
Right.
coach, that's what we want to do. We want to be able to help you to understand how you're feeling at that moment,
At that
to
moment.
be able to go back and have that conversation with that person.
Yes.
So
Yes.
empathy, and I know I went a long way around, but
That's
empathy
okay.
is very important because that is one of the most powerful parts of emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Because it if you have empathy, you can make better decisions. You can have better impulse control because we
Yes.
all have impulses. Now, that day that the young woman got in my face, my impulse was to say, "Have you lost your ever loving mind getting in my face like that? You ain't my wife. My wife at home.
My wife
She is not
don't
here.
me.
And my mama definitely ain't here because she probably would have
What?
popped me in the head by now. So you
What?
have no right to get in my face like that."
Right.
That's what I
Right.
thought. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie to y'all. That's literally what I thought. But my reaction was, I need to let her say whatever it is that she needs to say so that she can calm down. Because I'm
Yes.
gonna be very honest. She was very angry when she was in my face.
I can only
She was very
imagine.
frustrated, and I
I
knew
can
she
only
was.
imagine.
I mean, if I'd have turned my head, we'd have been kissing. That's how close he was. And I'm sure my wife would have torn my head off when I got home. But I just sat there and let her say what she needed to say because I wanted to defuse the
The situation.
situations.
Yeah.
So it happens to all of us. So rather than in work, if you have an a coworker that maybe you don't see eye to eye with, maybe that coworker doesn't try to understand you.
Right.
Maybe that coworker says something that offended you. If you don't think that you can pull that coworker to the side and say, "Hey, let's have a conversation. You mind going to lunch with me today? I really want to have a conversation about what
Right.
happened." Take the time out. If you need to write it down, get all
Right.
that negative energy out of yourself, and then say, "I would like to have a conversation, but I don't know how you're going to take it. So let's have a conversation in front of the human resources representative so they can help us by facilitating our conversation."
Right.
We have to be
Right.
smart. We have to use the resources that are available to us in the work environment. Their job is human resources,
It's
um,
to help with stuff like that.
and their job is to facilitate. So
Yes.
if
Yes.
you feel that you can't have that conversation, please, please, I
Work
urge
with
you,
your HR.
write it down, get it out
Yeah.
of your mind, take a
Yeah.
journal with you,
Yeah.
take a notebook with you. I take a
Yeah.
notebook with me everywhere I go. You probably can't see it, but I have one.
Okay.
And
Yep.
write it down and then go to the human resource
Yep.
person and say, "I really want to have a conversation about, what happened with Dawn and Marcus.
Right.
And I need Dawn to be here because I would like for you to facilitate the conversation." Because if we do that, we make our work environments better for them, for us,
Yeah.
for the human resource person, for the manager, for the entire work environment. And we
That's
get
true.
along a lot better.
We do.
So if you have those situations, please, I urge you as a person that does coach to write it down. And then if you can't have that conversation, that crucial conversation with your team member, have one with the human resource person and have them facilitate. And if that doesn't work, I have a suggestion for you. Whether it's me, whether it's Coach Dawn, I'm sure you can suggest to your human resources department, maybe we can have someone come in and give us a disc assessment so we can
Exactly.
understand our personality styles so we can communicate better.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe we need to have someone to do an emotional intelligence
Mm-hmm.
course or training so
Or
we
coach
understand
training.
how
Yeah.
to be more emotionally intelligent with each other.
Richie, yes. And I'm glad you brought that up because there's 2 points I want to bring out from everything you just said, which was important. What was really crucial for me in that situation was that the HR department did a phenomenal job.
Oh, wow.
They didn't discount my experience.
That's awesome.
they didn't immediately punish him.
That's awesome.
They gathered the facts and they facilitated a conversation. But even, and like I said, even in that conversation, he was kind of like abrupt and he wasn't trying to hear it. And even they had to go up, back up, you know. But the beauty was that they saw it, they became a witness
Hmm.
and they began to be an ally
Mm,
because they saw what I was working with, because
awesome.
his true colors came out in that meeting that was being
Awesome.
facilitated. And for coaching professionals, especially those who are external coaches, meaning you work
Hmm.
within an organization, and that means HR, an executive coach, a leadership coach, your role in this is to help facilitate. It's not about you
Right.
recording it to anybody. It doesn't have to be one of those things where people are being penalized. It really
Correct.
is about how can we bring people together to make a smooth conversation happen,
Hmm.
right? And to be an ally when you need to, or to be an impartial person.
Right.
But the key is, like you said, facilitating that empathy. Let's hear what
Yes.
he has to say. Let's
Yes.
hear what she has to say.
Yes.
You know, do you understand where they're coming from? What's
Yes.
coming up for you? It's not about judgment. And I think that as coaching professionals, that's where we play a crucial part. But
Yes, you do.
like you said, if you as an individual, as an employee, you're having that, you also have to have trust in your HR department.
Yes, you
And
do.
I think that you made a good point. If organizations or employees, let me go back, if employees are not having that trust, then that is an opportunity for the company to bring in people
Yes.
like me, people like you, to go in, to provide training, to provide assessments, to give that company a
Yes.
strategy and a plan so that they can facilitate these types of situations in
Yes.
an objective way, not
That is correct.
punitive, but objective.
That I agree with that 100% because we have to be as coaches objective. And if we can go into an organization and help the human resources team to be able to
Right.
understand the different things, because if you do a DISC assessment, which DISC
Yes.
stands for D is driven or dominant, I is
Mm-hmm.
influencing, S is
Mm-hmm.
supportive, which is like a team member, and C is like why do I always go blank on C? Uh, we'll just say chronological, but basically what it means, if you're a C person, I can't think right now.
That's
You are
okay.
a person that thinks of everything from A to Z, and
Right.
every one of those personalities are needed on any different project. You need a person that can lead and be driven and drive the team,
That's
but you
right.
also need a person that's influencing, that can influence the team members
The team.
get
Yep.
involved. You need the team members that are supportive, the glue to hold us all together, and you need
Yep.
that C to be able to say, before you move to D, you got to go through step A, B, and C before you
Right.
D. And when we all start to begin to understand our personality styles from a human resources perspective, it allows teams to work together. And I'm
Yeah.
speaking
More
specifically with
cohesively.
work
Yeah.
and your
Yep.
work environment. So if
Yep.
you need to bring in a person that can coach that, make that suggestion to your human resources. But I will be very frank and say that we are all, again, very emotional people, very emotional creatures. And I'm not just saying me as a man of color, black man,
But
people,
human
the
beings.
human
Yeah.
race is very emotional.
Yes,
So
we are.
the best thing to do when you're that way, in all honesty, is to journal.
Writing is,
Why
yeah.
is that so
Yep.
good?
Yep.
Because that allows you to get the emotions out of your mind and on paper so that you can see,
Yes.
well, now I know what I was upset about. Well,
Yes.
now I understand what happened. I wrote this whole thing out and now I understand why that person was so frustrated with me. I didn't see it from their point of view. Because sometimes when you write things down, no, I'm not going to say sometimes, most of the time when you write things down, it allows you to think very clearly because you're taking how you feel, you're putting pen to paper, or some people like to text it and journal
Right.
that way. Like my kid, I don't even know if they know how to write anymore because They do everything on devices, but
I
it
know they
allows you to be able
do.
to look at it. It allows you to be able to see what you're thinking and feeling, and the way you felt at that moment. And it's very therapeutic for you because it helps you to make better decisions. Because when you're
It
frustrated
is.
and angry, you don't use empathy. You use the negative side of empathy. No one cares about how I feel, and that's not true.
And that's
That's
not
just
true.
not true. So when you write it out, you're able to use a better empathy. You're able to see the reality of what's happening. You're
Big
able to
picture.
make better decisions. You have more impulse control. It allows you to look at things and say, yes, I am assertive. However, I have a social responsibility to be a little bit better when I'm doing things at work because it's the opportunity to take time out to think for a moment because emotions are very sometimes you're just reactive,
Right.
not
Right. You're
thinking,
triggered. It's a trigger.
triggered, and
Mhm.
now you're moving.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
those are ways to do it.
And see, we're doing it again because we are. This was the quickest hour. We're already 15 minutes to the hour. Because it's so much. It's so juicy. Um, a couple of points I wanted some tips. Some
Yes.
tips. I like the one that you wrote, and that's one of the things I do, especially with my more creative clients. We do
Mm-hmm.
journal. I always
Oh,
recommend you can go to the
good.
dollar store and get a really beautiful journal and
Yes.
get a pretty little pen and
Yes.
journal your hearts out. But
Mm-hmm.
like my clients that don't like to write, I also say, well, are you willing to do a video of yourself? Like you said,
Oh,
get
yeah.
your phone, get your
That's
phone,
good.
record yourself. Just and there's no right or wrong. You say what you feel. I'm
Yes.
angry because I feel this. I think this is wrong. I think that is wrong. Whatever it is you feel in that moment, record it. Write it or record it. Because when you play it back, when you read it back, when you listen to it back, you begin to see yourself and
Yes.
you go, oh, oh, I didn't know I was that angry about that. Oh, it
Yes.
does give you a certain self-awareness. So those are some tips, and it's a good diffuser. So like
Yes.
before you go and have a conversation, before you go and do anything, I like that approach of videotape it or journal it first because it helps you do the emotional dump
Yes, it
so that
does.
you can tap into the EQ.
Yes.
I also tell people before you have a conversation, um, if you have a mentor, if you have a coach like me or you, this is a good resource. So if you have an
Mm-hmm.
individual client, somebody hires me, I'm your test dummy. You know what
Yes.
I mean? I'm like, before you have that conversation, have it with me. Pretend like
Mhm.
I'm HR, pretend like I'm Joe Blow who just did X, Y, and Z. Talk to me first
Yes.
and get it out.
Out.
And so usually so far every time I've used that technique, my client goes, the conversation was wonderful. And because I talked to you first, I was able to get all of that unpent up emotional energy out so that I can cognitively and intellectually have the discussion that's very emotionally driven.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are common tips I think for people. Our coaches can use that technique for their clients, but individuals can use that technique as an individual
Yes. And
and work through it. Go ahead. I'm sorry. You go
I was
ahead.
just going to say, I will say that I tell people that there are three main components, right? It's your ability to recognize yourself from
Yes.
the emotional perspective.
Yep.
It's the ability to be able to read situations, how
Yep.
people are thinking, how they're feeling, if you decide to be empathetic, um, to be able to interpret the way they feel accurately, not just asking a question because that's the best thing is to ask a question. But that component of being able to listen helps. And then the final thing is your ability to respond to a person at that moment. Because if you look at yourself and you become self aware,
Mhm.
when you respond to someone, you will respond calmly and
You will.
make better decisions. Because, to be quite truthful, from an EQ perspective, emotional intelligence is something that you truly start basically once you have a personality, right? And that really develops all the way up until you're at least 60 years old.
Hmm.
So that continues to grow out your lifetime based on things and situations that occur.
Yeah.
But your intellectual quotient, your IQ, hits a peak when you hit about 21 years old.
Right.
But EQ doesn't hit a peak, in all honesty, until you're about 50 because you've had all that time to
Yes.
learn. But there are people, leadership, when you're in a
It keeps
leadership
growing.
role in your
Yeah.
job, your EQ is extremely, extremely important because it is your job as a leader to be able to see, listen, learn, adapt to all the situations from your team members so that you lead better. So, emotional intelligence is very important throughout your life. And remember, one other thing is people yell not because they feel like they need to yell. They yell because they feel like they're not being heard. And if you, as a person, and you deal with that situation, as long as you're calm and you speak calm, you can diffuse a situation and calm them down so that you can have a more intellectual conversation. So if someone's yelling, they feel that they're not being heard. So stop, let them get it out. Wow, I don't know what happened. I guess I talked on to death.